Hi all, I have a very exciting game to show you. This is from the London Chess Classic, round 3, Hikaru Nakamura playing Vishy Anand. d4 from Hikaru, we have knight f6, c4, e6. We go into, basically this is the Queen's Gambit declined at the moment. Hikaru takes on d5, and actually it's a very aggressive idea after bishop g5. You'll notice white isn't moving his kingside pieces. After e3, h6, and g5. Yeah, black's compromising his future kingside castling position. And we have a very interesting move here. If you don't know the theory, knight d2 actually was played in this position. This is actually the theoretical thing to do, knight d2. Now knight takes g3 is the main move. It's a little bit too dangerous to take on c3. Let's just check for those interested. I'm using stockfish 8, by the way. Knight takes this position. I think it's got good compensation for white. Basically, there's very good compensation here. You'll see. I mean, look at the weaknesses over here. So generally, it seems knight takes g3 is played here. H takes a3, kicking the bishop d3, king f8. Yeah, the king's kind of manually putting itself into safety, or greater safety. Queen c2. White is preparing potentially to castle queenside. He does. King g7. So we have a very interesting position actually. Kings on opposite sides of the board at the Queen's Gambit declined, but an exchange variation. Very interesting way of playing it. Very aggressive from white. Bishop e6, knight b3. Bishop goes to b6. Now f4, just trying to weaken black's kingside. Bishop g4. Rook de1, as though e4 might be on the cards. Queen d6. Rook hf1. So if fg happens, there might be things like e4 after that, and the f file might be more dangerous. Here, after rook a, e8, black's clearly clamping down on e4. Very interesting move now by Hikaru, knight c5. So he's hitting b7, and you might wonder, can't this be taken? Let's have a look. Actually, it was the b7 pawn was protected. If we take this, then actually f takes. There's a little tactic here. Can you see what white plays in this position, in this variation? I'll give you 5 seconds. Starting from now. Nice little tactic. Okay. Rook takes f6. And after knight e4 check, we're winning the queen. That'll be very nice for white, this position. Because actually, even the bishop's dropping off. If we take here, we've got queen d4 check. We can't check here, etc. Okay, so rook e7, bypassing that. Queen d2. Now this supports e4 because g5 will be targeted. Okay, so and you might think, well, hang on, this tactical idea doesn't work in this position. Can black actually consider taking on c5, or is it too dangerous here? Black played rook he8. Just seems to be clamping down on white's e4, trying to. Let's have a quick check again. It's a slightly different position, and in fact the engine suggests this might actually be one of the better moves. Yeah, in fact, I mean, it indicates black's fine. Yeah, this might be in a tiny little sip up actually, but maybe it was like a bit of a bluff, which Vishy just accepted. I think yeah, it seems bishop takes c5 is possible. I know this is super GM chess. There's a bit of it's psychology. It's not just an abstract computer versus computer game. It's psychology. There's a little bit of bluff, as though it's dangerous for black. But it does seem as though this might be a really good thing to actually take in this position. I mean, if we follow this through, let's just follow it through. Here. Now let's imagine bishop c2, knight e4, yeah, what is white doing? And in fact, this diagonal is pretty safeguarded here. Actually, it's all good for black, even from a king safety perspective. But anyway, we see rook he8, and now things are very different actually. After f takes, black's on a knife edge in this position because of this e4 and the queen having the advantages of being on d2 now. Black's on a knife edge because of this e4 and queen g5. In fact, one of the better moves, well, knight h5 is also to be considered, as well as the game, to be able to play queen g6. But here, h takes g, we do have e4. And again now, in this position, knight h5 might be one of the most accurate moves, believe it or not. In the game, knight takes e4 was played, and although that kind of gives white an isolated pawn, there's a lot of pressure on black's king side here in the game continuation. But before we go into that game continuation, let's have a quick look. Knight h5 might be black's best try, it seems, because after check, for example, queen g6 is actually good for black. This position, then we snap on c5 to weaken e4, then we can take on e4 and f5, and black is going to be okay, it seems. Black's more than okay here, black's slightly better. But yeah, there's a bit of a slip up, it seems, technically. Knight takes e4, and this knight is useful here. It takes on e4, rook takes e4, and so we're threatening rook takes g4 and queen takes g5 now from the white perspective. We have rook takes e4, knight takes e4, and again, black's king side is loose. And basically, Vishy decides, in effect, to give up his queen here. Because look, there's also knight f6, there's forking possibilities. Where does the queen go? You might think, well, hang on, what about this pawn here? It's just very, very dangerous. This position, which is a variation, in the game queen g6, but I'll quickly show you queen takes d4. Just taking on g5, and it's just very dangerous for black. For example, check. Now here, if queen g7, then we have check, and we can use that f6 square. It's just extremely dangerous. It's much better for white here. Yeah, there's nasty things now in this position. Quite nasty possibilities. It's a very dominating position on the dark squares. And if we look also, this looks ridiculous for the king to go to the center. It's too scary. It's just very exposed. And again, f6 or the dark squares can come into play where white sort of has a big grip on the dark squares. If say bishop c7 here, then that's actually a mate in 3. For example, check. Mating in that position. After taking. That just shows the dark square play. It's very, very good, but because black has been compromised on the dark squares when he played g5, he's weakened that f6. There's a logic to why these terrible weaknesses are in this position. It's that g5 from earlier. These dark squares are pretty vulnerable. So anyway, we have queen g6, which essentially gives up the queen, because after knight f6, it's a fork and a discovered attack on the queen. But, it is 2 pieces for the queen, so the game continues. 2 pieces for the queen, a rook and bishop for the queen. Queen c3 is a good move, threatening d5, check. And that happens now because, where is the king escaping to, in fact? So bishop d7, check. Bishop e4, very, very good move, actually, here. This is one of the strongest moves. If d takes... this is also technically good for white, but this is better because it's keeping that pin, it's keeping the pressure. G4, let's turn this off for a moment, is played. We have d takes, and we have now bishop takes c6. So queen versus rook and bishop. You might think this is going to be a big technical challenge here, but actually here, white's threatening queen f4 check and stuff, trying to win this pawn. And black has this loose piece now. Check, a4, and it's very dangerous for black. Bishop f2, another. Okay, they're trying to hold each other, but we have a forcing sequence. Check, 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 and white is forcibly winning material after queen f4 in this position. This is terrible. Let's have a quick look. Black resigned here. If bishop e1, we pick up the bishop. Let me just pick up the bishop. So what does black actually do here? If rook takes g2, we pick up the rook. The check there. Yeah. Very, very interesting game. And actually, Hikaru Nakamura is actually getting a very good classical record against Vishy Anand in the last few games. A very impressive record. So this adds to it. Very exciting, castle queen side, and he you know, we're seeing real fighting chess after the World Chess Championship. It's like maybe some people started having doubts, but this tournament's full of fighting chess. This London Classic Elite tournament, the imbalances are there. People, pardon me, people are fighting in every game. They're creating imbalances. They're creating exciting positions. Opposite side castling. The fun is back in chess. Okay, comments, questions, likes. Appreciate it. Thanks very much.